but it's why you're here as well.
Well, yeah, exactly. So I am reading you the script that they wrote with the slides that they made. So this is a brief presentation of 12 slides about the Argus II retinal prosthesis system, also known as the bionic eye. Apologies from Second Sight that no one could be here. The team are very busy with the UK government, trying to get the government to pay for these operations in the UK. And they're also, at the same time, working on a trial to see if this same thing works for macular degeneration. And the final operation final surgery on that trial took place on Tuesday, and it was streamed live on the internet, so they were all quite busy with that as well. There are now more than 170 Argus II users, people who have had the bionic eye implanted in them. The longest one has been more than 9 years they've had the bionic eye. And as of October last year, 32% of the patients were in the US for a total of 59 people. 62% in Europe for a total of 104 people, and 5% in Saudi Arabia for 7% of the people. Now, have they said here that this is only for people with retinitis pigmentosa? Just make that very clear.
Or macular degeneration.
Well, that's what they're working on next. Major milestones. In 2011, the Second Sight won the CE mark approval for Argus II to start marketing it to RP patients in the European Union. In 2013, the Food and Drug Administration in the US gave approval for it to be offered to severely blind patients with retinitis pigmentosa. This was the first time in human history that a medical treatment like that had been approved. There is no other FDA-approved treatment for blindness in existence. Quite a remarkable statement, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Argus II is the only electronic retinal implant that has been shown to be well tolerated inside the eye and at the same time to allow sustained real-life benefit to patients for a long period of time. This is a lifetime treatment, and some patients have had the Argus II implant in for over 9 years. Now they say, just to be clear, the treatment is only offered to patients who are severely blind with retinitis pigmentosa, no other cause of blindness. How is the treatment offered to patients and paid for across the world? In Europe, Second Sight's biggest market is Germany. 30 patients in Germany, 25 in Italy, and in France, nearly 20 so far. The first Argus II patient was implanted in the UK, but there are only 10 patients in the UK, all of whom have been treated as part of the clinical trials, because the UK government has not yet agreed to pay for the system. Although in Italy, Germany, and France, the governments do pay for the operations. Now, it's now routinely offered to RP patients who are severely blind in certain countries. 15 centers in the US are doing this operation, and 17 hospitals in Europe are doing it. In terms of government reimbursement in Germany, there is an NUB, what's that mean? Special mechanism available for reimbursement, authorizing 9 hospitals to negotiate on a case-by-case basis. In France, 32 patients over 3 years have been authorized for treatment. They are the first recipients of a new funding mechanism called the Forfait Innovation, conditional reimbursement. The national government in France has given funding for the devices to be implanted in 3 centers around France as compassionate use of the treatment. The treatment costs between 125,000 and 140,000 euros per patient, and that includes all aspects of the treatment before, during, and after surgery. And if you were to ask me the question now, what are the risks? I'm ready with the answer. The risks are similar to other complex intraocular procedures, such as the repair of a retinal detachment or ocular trauma. How does the system work? Patients have a microchip implanted into the damaged part of their retina. Under general anesthetic, specially trained surgeons can now perform this procedure in as little as 2.5 to 3 hours. The tiny retinal chip, which is approximately 5 by 9 millimeters, the size of a child's fingernail, contains 60 electrodes. These are points of electrical contact between the implant and the retina itself. The implant is invisible. It can't be seen in the eye, and there are no external cables connected to the eye. The patient wears a pair of glasses with a tiny camera mounted on the front. The images from the camera are processed and then transmitted wirelessly to a coil implanted on the side of the eye. Having a powerful computer to process the visual information is critical to code the images perfectly and to mimic the complex mechanisms of the normal retina. The coil is also invisible, so the patient's system cannot be seen by other people at all. The array stimulates the remaining active cells in the retina, and the information travels via the optic nerve to the brain in the same way as it does in a patient with normal vision. The images captured by the camera are transformed into different patterns of light, which the patient learns to interpret as meaningful images. And I will just interject here. We met a woman who, she was quite young, in her 40s, I think, who'd had the implant, and she said when she could see again, she saw this thing, but she had to relearn that that thing she was looking at was the letter A, because during the time she was blind, she forgot what the letter A looks like. Patients learn to interpret the visual patterns perceived with the Argus 2, and most significantly benefit from it to improve their quality of life. The Argus 2 has allowed patients to reconnect with the seeing world, and most importantly, with their families. They no longer feel so isolated, which is so important in an increasingly visual world. One of the unique advantages of the Argus 2 system is that patients can benefit from software updates, so that at present it's not necessary for the implant itself to be upgraded. This works in the same way that computers are updated via software upgrades. We've been able to improve the camera, glasses, and the signals that make it all work in the past years. Second Sight is an innovative company that is constantly working on updates to benefit their patients. Steps required for optimal use of the Argus 2 system. Having the Argus 2 treatment involves a lot of input from the patient in terms of relearning how to be part of the visual world again. The surgery itself is around 3 hours. Then there will be a switch on of the system at a fitting appointment and tests to check the system is working. But there are many more hours of rehabilitation. First, there's low vision rehabilitation, and this is mostly done in the clinic or in a rehab center. This is to train the patient to use the system, the micro movement and interpretation of what they can see. And then, that's how to move their head with the camera. And then the second step is rehabilitation with orientation and mobility, mostly done at the patient's home, to train the patient to handle the system in their normal environment, For example, using a long cane to safely cross the street. Special training is offered for guide dog users because the dog will still do his job. There are 2 guide dog users who have the Argus 2 system. In the Netherlands, there's someone called, I wouldn't know how to pronounce his name, Jeroen Perk,
Medical confidentiality.
and Dorothea Koolhaas in Germany. There's a film of Jeroen shooting at an archery target to show you, and it's about a 2-minute film. I can show you at the end. And this is a picture of Dorothea Koolhaas and her husband. So Dorothea has used the Argus 2 system since 2013. Dorothea and sometimes her guide dog Trixie film what she's experiencing while using the Argus 2 system using a dog cam. Her husband is also legally blind, but with his remaining sight, he helps her to check and upload the videos on the internet. And here's a quote from Dorothea. "I love to take a walk with my guide dog Trixie. While she's leading me, I can concentrate on nature and recognize trees and shrubs with the help of the Argus 2 system. When my husband Peter is walking in front of me, I can follow his steps. And although Trixie is securing my safety, I can also recognize the curbstone, which is giving me a feeling of control and safety." And the benefits, the visual function, it's an object localization. I guess that means you can find objects and you can see that something is moving. Visual acuity testing and letter identification. And I'm not quite sure what that is because she didn't tell me. Oh, I see. She did, but it was the wrong number, so I. So most people. This is the Dutchman, and that we've got the film of shooting archery, and he can hit the bullseye every time now with his implant. So people who have this don't say that they can see. What they say is that what they have acquired is another way of seeing. And as you can see here from this slide, you can locate doors and windows. You can sort light from dark clothes, stay within a crosswalk, detect and track other people, participate in activities such as bowling, archery, and skiing, tracking players on a field, and feel more socially connected and enjoy being visual again. The conclusions: the clinical trial demonstrated that Argus 2 can reliably withstand long-term implant greater than 9 years in a significant number of subjects. And they're saying they've had 362 subject years with a robust safety profile. Using the system, blind subjects showed improved performance on visual tasks, and results are sustained out to 5 years. Patients use Argus 2 in their daily lives, and the system has a positive impact on their well-being. The quality of life tool demonstrated significantly improved completion of vision-related tasks with the device on, as opposed to it being off. And that's their thank you. Now, if you bear with me for just a second, I will show you this brief video. Do you want to ask any questions in between?
I'm not an expert on this, but if there are any questions, I can try to answer them.
I'll have it before.
Do they implant just one eye?
I think they do one eye at a time. I think.
It's not clear to me whether anybody's had both eyes done, or whether it's really just a one.
Yeah, I think I heard somebody in California had his second implant about 6 months ago, that he was the first. So I don't know whether that gives you, I was going to say double vision.
Enjoying life with the bionic eye.
Oh, let's transfer.
Argus 2 system from second sight.
See the screen.
Here is
Okay.
Haroon.
Oh, stop,
Haroon is totally
stop.
enjoying life with the bionic
I
eye.
have to close everything else down.
Argus 2 system from second sight.
I don't know whether if you have two eyes done you get twice the firepower or not, but if you can't see anything at all, as we all know the slightest bit of sight is a big plus, so we'll see. One of the things they told me early on was that when they first introduced digital hearing aids, they were pretty primitive, but 15 years later they're very effective, so they're hoping for the same rate of progress with this chip. But they said the chip only has 60 pixels, so that's a pretty rudimentary image at this stage. You ready?
Enjoying life with the bionic eye. The Argus 2 system from second sight. Here is Haroon. Haroon is totally blind due to the genetic disease retinitis pigmentosa, or RP. He was diagnosed at the age of 11. In some people, like Haroon, RP progressively robs patients of their sight, even their perception of light.
People ask me about what is it, what is the system, and I'm always talking about the system.
Haroon is outside at an archery centre in Amsterdam, Holland. He is wearing the Argus 2 system. Part of this system comprises of a pair of glasses with a camera fixed in the centre of the glasses, between the lenses. Haroon points to the camera and wireless transmitter on his glasses.
You got here the camera. The camera is in combination with it, and on my eye there is a chip, and on the chip there are 60 electrodes, and the camera takes the visual field, and it goes to my brain.
He wears another part of the Argus 2 system around his waist on a belt, with a battery and various control buttons that he describes.
Here's a battery, and this one is to put on and off the system, and we got here filters to make a higher contrast. When it's cloudy weather, I use this one to make the contrast higher. And when it's very sunny, I use this one to make it better.
Haroon is inside the archery centre, being instructed on how to use a bow.
Dus probeer breedte te hanteren. Everyone who can have it, I want them all to get the system. Because I know, for me it's so important. I think it's important for other people with retinitis pigmentosa to have it. Yeah, that's my goal,
Encouraged by his instructor, Haroon holds the bow and aims, repeatedly firing arrows at the archery target.
En dat heeft te maken met... I'm going to restaurants and going out and yes, going socialize. Yeah. In September was on the beach and it was 3 weeks of fun. That's very emotional. When I'm in a bar and I see the lights and the contours of the people, that's very exciting for me. And so I made the choice to do it because I've seen it in the archery that it works. It's the quality of life, I think it is. Got no regrets because it's so successful.
Haroon laughs as he celebrates hitting the target. Many thanks to Haroon for sharing his experiences with us.